So I'm an emergency nurse that's interested in dementia care. Now you may not know this, ladies and gentlemen, but that in fact is a contradiction in terms. I mean, think about it for a minute, emergency care. It's the stuff that TV dramas are made of, isn't it? Hands up who's seen Code Black, Grey's Anatomy, ER, and what do we see? We see emergency nurses, emergency doctors flying from one drama to another. It's all blood and guts, blood and gore. It's the adrenaline pumping stuff, isn't it? Or at least that's the perception. But the reality is much more sedate. The World Health Organization estimates that there are 36 million people with dementia worldwide. This is set to double by the year 2030 and triple by the year 2050, which means people like me, emergency nurses, are going to be seeing more and more older people with dementia coming into the emergency department. And the research to date, ladies and gentlemen, suggests that older people with dementia will suffer negative consequences in an emergency care environment. So I suppose I was interested in finding out, not only as a researcher, but more so as a practitioner, about what we as emergency nurses could do to enhance the experience for older people with dementia coming into the emergency department. And so what did I do? I interviewed family members of older people with dementia who'd been in the emergency department, and I worked with emergency nurses who were looking after older people with dementia in an episode of care. And so what did I find out? Well, unsurprisingly, family members were apprehensive about coming to the emergency department and more apprehensive about what would happen once they got there. Turns out their apprehensions were well founded, for many family members described the emergency department as a war zone. They stated that they were bamboozled by it. They were fearful of the overcrowding and the congestion because they worried about how the older person with dementia would react in this environment. The one thing that family members stated over and over again was that they valued human contact and conversation, and especially with emergency nurses. Sadly, the perception of many family members was that emergency nurses were so busy and so task-orientated that they had little time to offer emotional support or comfort. But fear not, ladies and gentlemen, for it was not all doom and gloom. I mean, believe it or not, there were some family members who said, listen, hang on a minute, we had excellent experiences in the emergency department. So this was something that I needed to feed back to emergency nurses. So I ran a dementia workshop, and I used family member stories as a platform for discovery and discussion, and particularly in relation to the implications for nursing care. Clearly, there are some things that are working well, and this is where I hope my research will become influential in ensuring that what is working well happens much more frequently. My research is more than an academic exercise. It's about improving the emergency service for all of us here today who have been and will be affected by dementia. Thank you.